Our next guest, Seamus Bruner, recently penned an op-ed for Breitbart titled 7 Troubling Tim Walz Connections to Communist China, which would make him a great interview. So here we go. Joining us now, the Director of Research at the Government Accountability Institute and author of the book Controligarchs, Exposing the Billionaire Class, Their Secret Deals, and the Globalist Plot to Dominate Your Life. Seamus Bruner, back on the program. Seamus, wow. The more and more we learn about him just in the last week. First of all, to me, he was a nobody. I didn't know who the hell he was. And now I know that he has lied about his military service. He thinks that socialism is just fine here in this country. He thinks we shouldn't be adversarial with China. And late breaking today, he cozies up to Muslim fanatics. This guy might be worse than Kamala Harris. Take it away, Seamus. What'd you find out?
Yeah, hey, Dan, great to be with you. He absolutely is worse, which is saying a lot because Kamala Harris is absolutely terrible. But no, Tim Walz, I mean, this is the weirdest thing I've seen. Who goes to China 30 times? I mean, you have to really, really, really love that country to visit 30 times. And he says all kinds of crazy pro-China stuff. And it's not just the pro-China stuff, like they treated me so well and they gave me more gifts than I could ever take home. It's the stuff that he says about America. So on the 20th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre, he had the audacity to say, well, you know, some people did something over in China, but look at the United States. We have our dark history too. He compared the Tiananmen Square massacre, where thousands of people were killed, to Wounded Knee, which is over 150 years ago. 38 Native Americans tragically died. I would never defend the Wounded Knee massacre, but to draw this moral equivalence between the United States and China is absurd, especially considering the human rights abuses in China continue to this day. They are committing a genocide against ethnic minorities, the Uyghurs.
Yep.
He doesn't have much to say about that.
Yeah, no kidding. I wonder what his good, faithful Christian Democrat voters in Minnesota would feel about that he never speaks up against that genocide of Christians in China. Your op-ed, I think, said 7. Was it the top 7 things about why he loves up to China? By all means, rattle off a few more, my friend.
Yes, sir. So I think, you know, one of the more recent things that was really disturbing that we found was Chinese diplomats, a consul general, a CCP officer, attended Walz's inauguration. Of course, he had to be invited to attend. You can't just show up and say, I'm with the CCP, I'd like to attend. So he was honored to attend, this Chinese official. From the inauguration, this is in January 2019, that CCP official goes and meets with a couple of Minnesota-based NGOs. One of them is called Global Minnesota. And so Global Minnesota is one of these globalist type organizations, World Economic Forum, United Nations ally, based right there in Minnesota. And that is a Tim Walz friendly entity. They have paid, Global Minnesota has paid for Tim Walz to take trips. He took a trip to Finland. They took delegations to China. And so this Global Minnesota is now partnered with another organization called the Chinese American Association of Minnesota, CAAM. That has been accused of being a secret Beijing police station. So this broke a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I remember hearing about those.
Yes, so that China has 7, at least, that we know of, secret police stations they use where they are operating. The Chinese Communist Party is operating inside of America in 7 cities around the U.S. It's San Francisco, it's Chicago, it's New York. But for whatever reason, it's in the Twin Cities, Minnesota. And so this organization, just one of 7 that we know of, is tied closely to Tim Walz. So that's bizarre. Then Tim Walz has given speeches at least 3 Chinese Communist Party-backed events. They're the Chinese People Friendship with Foreign Countries Committee. They got all these long acronyms. But Tim Walz is a headline speaker at 3 of them. And these are all very recent. He's kind of trying to downplay all this sinophilia from the 90s and 2000s. This is from 2019, 2020. And so he is very close with Chinese Communist Party operatives. By the way, our U.S. State Department has accused some of these entities of being Chinese espionage fronts. So he really needs to answer some questions about his connections to these CCP-backed entities.
Yeah, I'm sure he won't, because the mainstream media won't hold his feet to the fire and ask the damn questions. And if people like him or Kamala or whatever never come on networks like this, even though we keep open invitations for any Democrat who'd love to come on. Finally, this just broke today, and I know you're aware of it. Not only does he cozy up to communism and communists in China, but evidently he loves folks that are pro-Hamas. This article just dropping by the Daily Caller says that Tim Walz repeatedly hosted a Muslim cleric with ties to Hamas and gave him over $100,000 worth of grants for his Muslim organization. And this cleric, this whatever they're called, Imam, he actually has praised Adolf Hitler, and he praised the October 7th terror attacks in Israel. And this guy he's been buttering up to was just in the last few years since he's been governor and approved the grants. So this guy's not only for communism, he's for terrorists. And he's running to be vice president of America. What the?
Yeah, I mean,
what clown show are we living in, Seamus?
It's insane, Dan. I got to give a shout out to Gabe Kaminsky. He broke this story, and this Muslim American Society, this radical imam, has been called the arm of the Muslim Brotherhood. Wow. The United Arab Emirates actually labeled it a terrorist organization. And so Tim Walz's government in Minnesota gave them over $100,000. And he met with them at least 5 times, invited them to special events, gubernatorial events, and this radical imam is, you should not be meeting with the governor and soon to be maybe vice president or, vice presidential nominee.
I mean, this guy, I said at the beginning of the week, I'm like, this guy is the gift that keeps giving, right? Christmas come early. But now instead of making fun of who he is, I'm disgusted that one, he could reach the pinnacle of running an entire state as the executor, being a governor, and now the audacity for Kamala to pick a guy like this to run to be a heartbeat away from the top job when you're literally cozying up to terrorists and communists. But this is the Democrat Party of 2024, right, Seamus? It's disgusting. I'm out of time,
It's an
brother.
outrage.
As always.
It's an outrage.
I know. We appreciate you so much. Check out his book, Controligarchs, and his articles, man. When he puts them out there, he comes heavy, and he comes with facts. Seamus Bruner, as always, thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Dan.
Yep.